Harivom. Swakrathunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste friends. Team Paramvedanta welcomes you all for the session 3 of Kathopanishad. We will continue from where we left last week and study the next set of 5 mantras from mantra 10 to 14. Kumari Aditi Divakar, Dr. Sanjay Banakal, Dr. Sandhya Nanjundaya, Dr. Rekha Kumar and Dr. Kiran will tell us what boons Nachiketas asks from Yamadharmaraja. Incidentally, Kumari Aditi Divakar, daughter of Dr. Divakar, has become the youngest teacher on this platform. Dr. Hegde sir, as always, will add the final points. Now it's time for us to listen to Dr. Anupama, who will briefly revisit the mantras we studied last week before Hegde sir introduces us to the day's proceedings. Madam, please.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Kathopanishad, a recap, mantras 5 to 9. The story so far was in response to Nachiketa's question, Hey Tata, kasmai mam dasyasi, meaning, to whom will you give me as dakshina? The irritated father replied, Mrityave tva dadati. I am giving you to Lord Yama as dakshina. This we know was an unintentional response, but what follows is the consequence of this reaction. Now, was Nachiketas stunned or afraid of his father's impetuous response? No. On the contrary, he was not worried about going to Yamaloka. He thought that Yamadharmaraja, unlike the priests who perform the yaga, may not need his services at all, and this reduces him to a purposeless dakshina. As his guru, his father certainly knew that he was well qualified. So, what punya could his father possibly accomplish through him by way of service to Yamadharmaraja? As dakshina to Yama, he was as purposeless as vrita vrishtihi samudreshu, meaning as rain which falls on the sea. Being, as he has described himself, bahunam emi pratama aham, bahunam emi madhyama. I am the best among my fellow students. He then persuades his father to permit him to go to Yamaloka. Nachiketas now advises his remorseful father, Martyaha sasyam eva pachyate, sasyam eva ajayate punaha. Just as a plant blossoms and perishes, so also man endures janana marana cycle. Appearing more virtuous than his father, he says, it is far a superior virtue to keep one's word. Truthfulness is long-lasting. Our lives and relationships are just ephemeral. Nachiketas is now in Yamaloka. On realizing that Yamadharmaraja was elsewhere, and in keeping with the prevailing tradition, he waited outside for 3 nights without food. The folks of Yama's palace were worried about incurring pratyavaya papam for not having honored this Atiti, a Brahman guest who represents Agni Devata. Vaishwanaraha pravishyanti brahmano grahan. A Brahman guest represents Agni Devata or Vaishwanaraha, Agni Eva Sakshat, also known as Virat or Vishwarupa Ishvara. By not having honored this Brahman guest, they would have to endure a papam called Pratyavaya Papam. The Alpa Medasa or unintelligent host in whose house a Brahman guest resides without food would be denied many punyas, which include the punya of hope, expectation, satsanga, noble speech, rituals, charity, children, and cattle. Yamadharmaraja is now seriously concerned. He rushed towards Nachiketas and said, Brahman namasya atitihi, tvam me grihe tisra ratrihi avat shihi anashnan. Yad evam te namaha astu. He Brahman, me swasti astu. Tasmat ekaikam ratrim prati trin varam vrinishva. Yamadharmaraja is concerned about his own welfare. He says, Hey Brahman, me swasti astu. O Brahman, let there be good fortune for me. As a remedy for my acquisition of Pratyavaya Papam, caused by you staying outside my house without food for 3 days, I prostrate to you and grant you 3 boons. Nachiketa then asks for each boon. We proceed from here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anupama, for an excellent recap of the verses that we studied in the last class. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Pariyantam Vande Guru Paramparam Om. It is indeed a tremendously great privilege to be able to study the Upanishads, and among all the Upanishads, one of the most direct Upanishads, according to Swami Tapovan Maharaj, where Brahma Vidya is so clearly explained, that is Kathopanishad. Osho has mentioned this about the Upanishads. He said, as he was introducing his own class, he said, we are entering into one of the most enchanting and the mysterious world of the Upanishads. Never before and never after has human consciousness attained to such Himalayan heights. The days of the Upanishads were truly golden. Right now, as we are studying some of the introductory verses of the Kathopanishad, mainly the story part, we may not be able to see the greatness of these Upanishads, but Adi Shankara has said, Brahma Vidya or Moksha is hidden in these words, and through our efforts, let us be able to work on that highest Purushartha, Parama Purushartha, or Moksha. There are 3 miracles that I would like you to bring to your notice today as we are studying the Upanishads. Now, whenever we speak of a great effort, we talk of the Bhagirath Prayatna, because King Bhagirath had to bring Ganga Devi into Uloka. And among all the things, he had to pray to Lord Shiva to tamponade it as it is coming down to the world. And the river Ganga is also considered as Brahma Vidya for various reasons, as we know the story of Ganga, because to us Ganga comes from the head of Lord Shiva. That is why Sadashiva Samarambha. Now, as the story goes, we also have the story of Jannavi. Ultimately, it is revealed to us through the years. That is why this school of knowledge is also called a Karna Parampara. That means we get Brahma Vidya not so much from the books, but by listening to Acharya. So Brahma Vidya represents, Ganga represents Brahma Vidya, and it is one miracle of Bhagirath. Another miracle is when Adi Shankara's mother was getting old, she had to walk a long distance to the Purna river. Now it is called Periyar. And through a miracle, he was able to redirect the river to come closer to her house. And this is another miracle story that we have heard. I will come to the third miracle a little later on. The Upanishads are part of the Vedas. The Vedas are the most sacred of all the spiritual texts. And because of the sacredness, the teachers of the Vedas would like to ensure that it goes to the right person. So they kept it in a way, the sacredness as secret, and would give it to only eligible people. So only the eligible people were being entitled to these stories, to this Vidya. And there is a story of a little boy called Jabala. And Jabala was interested to learn about Vedas, and he goes to a certain Acharya, and the Acharya asks you, who is your father? And the boy says, I'll go find out from my mother. I do not know my father's name. And when he goes back to his mother, her name is Satyakama. And she said, honestly, she tells him, tell him that your mother's name is Satyakama, but because she worked in so many places, she is not able to know who your father is. So he comes back to the Gurukula, and in front of all the students, he tells this exactly what his mother said, and all the other children laugh at him. But seeing the earnestness and the sincerity of the student, the teacher accepts him as a student, and he initiates him to Brahma Vidya. And of course, there are so many stories about the life of Jabala, who becomes a great Acharya. In fact, we have an Upanishad in his name called the Jabala Upanishad among the Upanishads, because Adi Shankar has not commented, it is a minor Upanishad. And it is said that the city of Jabalpur also came in his name. And this story comes in Chandogya Upanishad, chapter 4.4. If you look into the Aitareya Upanishads, chapter 2, section 1, there is an announcement right in the beginning of this section, where the teacher says, I will request all pregnant women to leave the class. Other women can stay, pregnant women can leave. And after the section is over, because it dealt with about creation, and for some reason the teacher felt that this knowledge may not be comfortable for pregnant women, he requests them to come back. And if you study the Brihadaranya Upanishad, you will see there are women teachers and students like Maitreyi, Gargi, and there are sections named after them. But thereafter, you know that in our tradition, women were not allowed to have access to Brahma Vidya. And this was the tradition that went on for years and years. Vidyaranya Swami was the Acharya of Sringeri Matha. He was a very great teacher, and he would have a lot of students coming to him. And among them, he saw a lot of people who had eligibility for Brahma Vidya, who had all the qualifications for Brahma Vidya, but because of their Varna, Ashrama, he was not able to initiate them into these studies, because that was the tradition of the ashram. And being the Matadipati, he could not change these rules. He did something wonderful. All the Dashopanishad, not all, 8 of the Dashopanishad and 4 more, he has brought out into a new form called the Anubhuti Prakasha. And Swami Paramarthananda has spoken on all these Anubhuti Prakasha. There are about 3,000 verses. So in 3,000 verses, he has brought out, now for example, we have studied Mundaka, we are studying Kathopanishad, and the entire Upanishad is now brought out in a very clear, in a very systematic form. And therefore, it is said studying the Anubhuti Prakasha has greater advantage than studying the original itself. The original itself has its own glory. But then Swamiji says, if you have studied the Upanishad, then you study the Anubhuti Prakasha. And I think we will make this as an effort. We have studied Mundaka, and now we are studying Kathopanishad. And one day we can study the Anubhuti Prakasha of these 2 Upanishads also. Until recently, this was the problem. Then another miracle happened when Swami Chinmayananda came. Swami Chinmayananda, when he was exposed to the Upanishads, he was ignited with a great spirit that everyone and anybody should get this wisdom. He broke the tradition. In every street corner, this is a street intersection at Pune, where he would address those people who would come to him. And he made this, he broke the tradition of bringing Brahma Vidya from the original language of Sanskrita to the language people could understand, in whatever language they could understand, and to whomever they are interested. And today, the miracle that he has done is this Dhyana Ganga, through his series of acharyas, in its pristine purity, is available for us in our own homes. We are all, most of us are grihasthas. We have not left our homes. We have not left our families. We have not left our profession. And yet this Brahma Vidya has come to us in this pristine beauty, thanks to the great Swami Chinmayananda, and our salutations to him. Friends, we are studying the Upanishads. We are studying Kathopanishad. The Upanishads are also called Veda Anta. That means they are from the end portion of the Vedas. Now, because we are studying the Upanishad, this format idea should be clear to all of us. There are 4 Vedas: Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and the Atharva Veda. Among the Upanishads, there are 10 considered as Dashopanishads or major Upanishads because they have been commented by Adi Shankara and other great acharyas. Of these 10 Upanishads, there is one Upanishad, only one from the largest of all the Vedas, that is called the Aitareya Upanishad. The Yajurveda has got 2 schools called Shukla Yajurveda and Krishna Yajurveda. In the Shukla Yajurveda, we have 2 Upanishads called the Isha Vasya Upanishad and the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. From the Krishna Yajurveda, we have 2 major Upanishads, and that is what we are studying right now, Kathopanishad and the Taittiriya Upanishad. From the Samaveda, we have 2 major Upanishads. They are Kenopanishad and the Chandogya Upanishad. And from the Atharva Veda, we have 3 major Upanishads: Prashnopanishad, Mundakopanishad, and the Mandukya Upanishad. There is a minor Upanishad also from the Atharva Veda, which Swami Chinmayananda encourages us to study, and we have studied also, that is the Kaivalya Upanishad. This is the overall map, and in all our introduction, I will bring a little more about all these, this format as we continue our study. Our opening speaker today will be the young Aditi. Welcome, Aditi, for your verse.
Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. In the 9th verse, we saw that Lord Yama feels guilty for not letting Nachiketas eat food for 3 days. So he offers salutations and offers 3 boons as a compensation, one corresponding to each night. Next slide, please. Verse 10, Shloka goes like this. Shanta Sankalpa Sumanayata Syat Vita Manyur Gautamo Mabhimruthyo Tvat Prasrishtam Mabhivadet Pratitaha Etat Trayanam Pratamam Varam Vrane. Next slide, please. The meaning of the shloka: Mrityo, O Lord Yama, Gautamaha, may my father Gautama, Yata Syat, be Shanta Sankalpaha, free from anxiety, Vita Manyuhu, free from anger, Sumanaha, and kind-hearted, Pratitaha, having recognized me, Abhivadet, he should talk, Ma, to me, Tvat Prasrishtam, as I am sent back by you, Etat, this is Pratamam Varam, the first boon, Vrane, that I choose, Trayanam, among the 3. Next slide, please. The literal meaning goes like this. O Lord Yama, may my father Gautama be free from anxiety, free from anger, and kind-hearted towards me. He should recognize me. He should talk to me as I am sent back by you. This is the first boon that I choose among the 3. Next slide, please. We know that the Vedas talk about the Panchamahayagna, Deva Yagna, Pitru Yagna, Brahma Yagna, Manushya Yagna, and lastly Bhuta Yagna, which are the compulsory daily duties meant for the purification of the mind. In this verse, Nachiketas demonstrates Pitru Yagna, where he is doing his duty towards his father. Next slide, please. He wants his father to be free from anxiety, free from anger, kind-hearted towards him, accept him, talk to him comfortably. This is the first boon Nachiketas has asked Yama. In the next verse, Yama grants this boon. Thanks to everyone, especially Dr. Timappa sir and Sachina. Thank you. Hari Om.
Congratulations, Aditi, on your excellent presentation, and all good wishes to you. Whenever I get a chance to speak to young people, I remind them of the 3 rinas that all of us have. One is called Pitra Rina, Loka Rina, and Acharya Rina. And as you will see as the story goes, Nachiketa is able to demonstrate that these are the 3 rinas all of us have to fulfill. The first is our debt to our parents by being a worthy child of our parents. Second is to be able to communicate we contribute more to society than what we have taken. That is called the Lokarina, that we will hear in the subsequent presentations. And finally, Acharya Rina, when you are able to attain to Paramapurusha. To Aditi, for all your efforts, may you be blessed to be able to fulfill all these rinas. Our next speaker will be Dr. Sanjay Banakal. Dr. Sanjay, please.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. We just saw Nachiketa asking for the first boon from Lord Yamadharmaraja very intelligently. Now, we saw that he could put many things into one boon and ask the first boon from Yamadharmaraja. So the Upanishads, they bring out certain qualities which are essential for a spiritual seeker through the story of Nachiketa. Intelligence is one among them. Another important quality that stands out in this verse is selflessness. We saw that Nachiketa utilized his first boon not for himself, but for the well-being of his father. One should have love and affection towards one's own father first, or one's own parents, and then expand gradually to the whole universe. Now, let us see what is the response of Lord Yama towards the first boon that Nachiketa asked. Let us see verse number 11. Yatha purastad bhavita pratita auddalakirarunirmat prasristaha sukham ratrihi shaita vitamanyuhu tvam dadrushivan mrityumukhat pramuktam. Let us now see the meaning of each word. He says, Mrityumukhat pramuktam. Mrityumukhat means the jaws of death. That is Yama himself. Having released from the jaws of death, Yama says, Tvam dadrushivan, and seen you. Who sees him? Nachiketa's father. Auddalaki arunihi. Both these names are again another name of Nachiketa's father, that is Vajashravasa. We have already seen one more name in the previous verse, Gautama. So Vajashravasa, Gautama, Uddalaka, and Aruni. All these are names of a single person, that is Vajashravasa, Nachiketa's father. So what does he grant? He will say, Sukham Ratri Shaita. That's what Nachiketa asked for. So he will sleep peacefully at night. Having lost his beloved son, he must have lost his sleep all through. He must have slept without any peace at all at night. So he will get back his sleep and he will sleep peacefully. Vitamanyo, he will not be angry towards you at all because you went against his wishes to Yamaloka. Then he says, Mat prasrishtaha. Here we get this word prasrishtaha, which we already saw this in the previous verse, but the meaning is different in these two verses. Here it means with my blessings. In the previous verse it says tvat prasrishtaha, having released from you. So there the meaning is released from you. Here it is with my blessings. What happens? Bhavita pratitha. He will recognize you. Having gone back from Yama, he will not think that he is a ghost. He will recognize him as his son, Yatha Purastad, as before. So in a sense, Yamadharma grants his first boon, saying Tatastu. Thank you, Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sanjay. Another very clear explanation of this verse. And the story continues. Let us listen to Dr. Sandhya for the next verse. Dr. Sandhya, please.
Hari Om. The 12th verse starts explaining the second boon which Nachiketa has asked for from Yamadharmaraja. It goes as follows. Swarga loke na bhayam kincha nasti na tatratvam na jaraya viveti ube tirtvashanaya pipaso shokatigav modate swarga loke. Nachiketa says, in heaven there is no fear, nor do they have old age and death, no hunger, no thirst, and one rejoices being above grief. And most importantly, Yama Dharmaraja, you yourself are not there. Next slide. From the 12th to the 17th verse, Nachiketa talks about the second boon he is requesting from Yamadharmaraya. Now here we have to remember that the first boon asked for the welfare of the father, the second boon asked for the welfare of society and people at large. Nachiketas knows that most people are not really interested in moksha, but they really want to live a very good life, an ideal world, and a heavenly life at all times and for a very long time. So he asks for knowing about the Swarga Agni ritual. This is a ritual which, if performed, eventually the person will go to a very high loka and lead a very good life. Here, there are several things that we must note. The first one is the maturity of Nachiketas himself. He is not asking for himself moksha, which he will do later on, but he is asking for the welfare of all the people, 99% of the society perhaps, who is really interested in leading an ideal life, which is what we strive for even now at all times. The second thing is that this ritual is mentioned in the Rig Veda, Mandala 10, Yajur Veda, Atharvana Veda, and so on. So this type of ritual is mentioned in the other Vedas as well. And in this 12th verse, he is only talking about the boon itself and why he wants this boon. He explains what heaven is like. Next slide. Now, we live in Bhuloka. When we live in Bhuloka, we are undergoing tapatraya. That is, due to our own karma, we have adrishtaphalam. And while the good part is good, we have problems from adhyatmika, adhibhautika, or adhidevika forces, which create a negative feeling in our lives. Either we have diseases of old age, diseases of the mind, like anxiety and fear, diseases from other people or worries from other people and material world, or problems coming from natural forces like hurricanes and all that. And time is probably our greatest enemy, because we all know that at one time, soon enough, we may all have to depart. And all that we really face in the Bhuloka is really dependent on our past karma and therefore our fate. Now, we know that there are 6 lokas or so higher than the Bhuloka, and in fact, in the Bhuloka itself, our entire material life is really towards getting a better life for ourselves, in fact, the ideal life. Now, let us remember that all these lokas have nothing much to do with moksha, but really only these are lives of experience where we experience the best that we can. Next slide. Next slide. Now, Nachiketas here says, why is it that he is asking for heaven? Probably he is asking for the Satyaloka itself, because in this loka, when you come into the Satyaloka, due to doing the ritual, you are always happy, prosperous, comfortable, no sorrow, no tapatraya, no problems of hunger and thirst, no old age, no disease, and definitely no death. So you are having no tapatraya on one side, you have transcended human suffering. But let us remember that this, in one way, is not complete immortality. Immortality you can get only if you have moksha. But this is a so-called relative immortality. That means if we count our years on the earth, say maybe 100 years or so at the most, here it will be many, many times that. So we'll have an extremely long life. We are not bound by earthly time and space. And not only that, whatever we want in these lokas, we get immediately, complete gratification, no effort, complete satiety at all times. Now we may ask, how is this possible? It is possible because when you have done enough merit to get to these lokas, you go with a young body and mind, so-called. You live in the same state without any problem, with a fantastic life. for all the time, which is very, very long compared to our earthly time. And then finally, when the time comes for you to go, you are removed from this loka and in the same body itself. In fact, they say, Shine Punye Matya Loka Vishanti. So as long as we have punya, we remain in this heavenly type of place, in an experience that we all would love to have and cherish. And it is for this reason Nachiketas knows that all of us or most of us are interested in only a fantastic life. And this is the second boon that he is introducing to Lord Yamadharmaraya. Thank you.
Thank you very much, madam, for another excellent presentation. We'll listen to Dr. Rekha next, and I will not come in between speakers. Please continue as your name comes. There will be a small lag between the request for next slide. It will take 1 or 2 seconds.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Hari Om. In verse 13, Nachiketa continues to talk about the further glories of Swarga Loka before asking the boon itself. Next slide, please. Sattvam Agnigum Swargyam Adhyeshi Mrityo Prabhuthittvagam Shraddhadhanaya Mahyam Swarga Lokaha Amritatvam Bhajante Etad Dvitiyena Vrinevarina. Next slide, please. So taking the third line first for comfort and understanding, Nachiketa says that people in heaven, Swarga Lokaha, enjoy immortality. Also, Bhajante Amritatvam. Now, Dr. Sandhya has already referred to many things that are available in Swarga Loka, including this relative immortality. So, so Sri Paramatmananda ji tells us that we use the principle of interpretation, mimamsa, to make clear whether the statement celestials are mortal is correct or celestials are immortal. So using mimamsa, he tells us that this immortality is relative. So in Swarga Loka, celestial beings enjoy a very long but yet finite life. It is not absolute immortality. Next slide, please. Coming to the first line, so now Nachiketa addresses Lord Yama as Mrityoho. O Lord Yama, Satvam Adyeshi. You know Agnim Swargyam. So this is the fire ritual which leads one to heaven. So it's a specific ritual which is performed using a specific fire, and this is the means of attaining the heavenly world. The word Agni normally means fire, but it has 3 technical meanings. Next slide, please. And Swami Paramarthananda tells us that it's important to know in which context the word Agni is used. One meaning is Agni as a specific fire, which is kindled in a specific way, chanting a specific mantra and located in a specific homakunda. The second type is a specific ritual, which is performed using the specific fire. And this is the kind of Agni that is used in the 13th verse. The third meaning of Agni is to refer to a specific deity. And again, it's important to know because Lord Yama keeps using the word Agni interchangeably in the Upanishad. So coming to the second line, Tvam Prabruhi, may you reveal that Mahyam Shraddhadhanaya, to me who has faith. So that a particular ritual will lead one to heaven is a matter of faith. In fact, the very existence of heaven itself is a matter of faith, that I will continue to exist after death and that I will go to heaven is also a matter of faith, because nobody has come down from there to tell us that this is going to happen. So the entire ritualistic portion is faith-based. And if one has no faith, the rituals have no meaning. Therefore, in this verse, we learn that Nachiketa is Shastra Shuddha. He declares that he has faith in the Vedas, in the rituals, and in heaven. Next slide, please. In the last line, Nachiketa says, Vrene yetat, I seek this, Dvitiyena Varena, through the second boon. So he asks for the second boon very clearly, in which he seeks to learn the specific fire ritual that leads one to Swarga Loka, where the celestials enjoy relative immortality. As mentioned before, this is not for himself. It's for the benefit of society, benefit of others who have faith. Because it appeared to Nachiketa that most people appear to want a very comfortable materialistic life, and that cannot be obtained in Bhuloka, and that can be obtained only in Swargaloka. Thank you. Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rekha, for your excellent presentation. I'm very tempted to come back again, although you have emphasized, I would like to repeat this again. Throughout the course of the Kathopanishad, you will have a reference to Agni. And whenever Agni is mentioned without any reference to what it is, based on the context, you have to see whether it is referring to that specific fire for the specific purpose, one. Second is, are we talking about this ritual, which will be labeled later on as the Nachiketa ritual, which helps people to go to Swarga. And the third is the ability to invoke a Devata, the Vaishwanara, also called Virat. And later on, we will see the significance of invoking a certain Devata, which is not only doing a karma, but doing a form of a meditation, which will have much more benefits. The last speaker will be Dr. Kiran. Dr. Kiran, please.
Hari Om, Gurubhyo Namaha. Nachiketa, being a Sattvika or Guna Brahmana, as Swamiji repeatedly mentions, when asked to take 3 boons, first he has completed his Pitruruna by asking boon for parents and indirectly for himself, that is long life. Second, for the well-being of the society he lives, he is asking this boon. Most of when we give some gift, we don't give what we like. We always give what the other person prefers. Like for example, if you are meeting a writer, we give him some pen or some gadget person, we give him some gadget, jewelries and so on. It is not that what we like. Most of the persons prefer Swarga. That is why, as Madam has told, 99% prefers this, and so he has asked Swarga, Loka. And even in 1%, those who prefers, when you ask amongst them moksha, they indirectly means it is Swarga. Very few people ask for enlightenment or shreyas. And as Swamiji has repeatedly told, this enlightenment or gnanam has to be voluntarily asked, and it has to come from Guru Parampara, Shravana, Mananam, Nididhyasana. That's why Nachiketa does not ask shreyas for Manukula or the society. Next slide, please. Here, Prate Bravim Tadu Me Nimodha Swargyam Nim Nachiketa Prajana. O Nachiketa, Prajnanam Agni. Remembering that I know this Agni Vrata, Swargyam, which leads to heaven. That means I know this Vrata or ritual leads to Swargyam. I shall teach you. I also know this very well and I am capable of teaching you. And Nibodha Tadute, learn it from me clearly. And Etam, here he refers to Swargam. I will explain it in the later. Ananta Lokam Apimato Pratishtam Vidhi Twametam Nihitam Guha. As Sir has told, Nihitam Guha. At the end of every rituals, we often invoke Lord inside our heart or deep inside our heart. That is what he is mentioning by Nihitam Guha. O Nachiketa, I remember the fire ritual which leads to heaven, and I shall clearly teach you, and may you know this and help them to reach the heaven. Next slide, please. Here, Lord Yama assures Nachiketa that he knows this Agni ritual, not that he doesn't know, and he promised to teach it. Here, he says Agni, as previously it was mentioned, there are 3 meanings which you can interpret depending on the context. Here, Agni is referred to as substratum of the entire universe, that is Pratishtam. That is, here he refers to as Virat Devata or Samashti Devata or Vishwarupa, which is mentioned in the chapter 11 of Bhagavad Gita. To use an analogy, ocean is the substratum of the waves. And this Agni is invoked or reside in the heart. As we see in the chapter 15, Ham Vaishwanaro Bhutaha. So, Agni is the first of the Maha elements or the Pancha bhutas which is visible. We don't see space, we don't see air. And this is the first element which is seen to us, and it does not occupy any space unlike water and other things. And this has the capacity to burn anything into its purest form. And that is why in most rituals, in most religion, Agni has got a very high value. Next slide, please. And here it symbolizes the uh, Virat Rupa, and it explains further that how to do this vrata. Thank you very much. Namaste. Hari Om.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kiran, for another nice explanation, and also for very clearly explaining the importance of invoking the Devata and giving a clarity about the three types of Agnis. Dear friends, it's such a privilege that we have to be able to study the sacred Upanishads. Let us delve into this teaching with all sincerity, so that, as Adi Shankara has said, liberation is hidden in these words, and with the help of these classes, let us be able to proceed to see how we are able to get the essence of Kathopanishad. Venkatesh, please.
Friends, as all of you are aware, Paramvedanta has been offering Guru Dakshina to all our Gurus twice a year, once during Guru Purnima and again during Gita Jayanti. You have been a part of this offering all through, and we are indeed grateful to you. Now Gita Jayanti is back again on 22nd December 2023, and it's time for us to submit our offer to the lotus feet of our Gurus. I am sure you will join us in this Guru Seva as always, and I therefore appeal to kindly offer your generous reverential offerings to these Gurus. Needless to mention, that decision to donate and amount of donation is purely voluntary, and there is absolutely no compulsion. The entire amount of your offering thus collected will reach the lotus feet of our Gurus. The mode of payment to the account is displayed on the screen. It will also be sent to you in all the groups. Those of you who decide to offer may remit your Dakshina to that account. Details of Guru Dakshina offered will be shared with you all. Thank you, sir, and all speakers of the day for the wonderful explanations. Thank you, friends, for being with us. Coming Monday on 27/11/2023, let us tune in for gift session number 4 at 6:45 p.m. Thank you once again. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you.